Sensational news. Poland is reaching for the nuclear button, ready to deploy weapons of mass destruction on its territory. Paris and Warsaw stand against Moscow. The Kremlin is on edge. Ukraine is ready to teach how to resist the Russian Federation, and training could start at any moment. Moscow has set its sights on the heart of Europe, and Iskanders are already in Kaliningrad. NATO is preparing to respond to the Kremlin. Could this really be World War III? I'll share all the details in just a moment. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. I'm Victoria Panchenko, and here are the latest events. Unexpectedly, Poland is showing its teeth and is planning to deploy nuclear weapons on its territory. It is likely that France could become a nuclear umbrella for the Poles. Polish President Karol Nawrocki stated that his country is ready to join the nuclear sharing program and is counting on France's support in this matter.
Is the president of Poland? I believe that we should be part of nuclear sharing. It should have its own nuclear capability, both civilian and military. The partnership between Poland and France is exactly about this.
He emphasized that he wants to do everything that will provide Poland with security guarantees.
Perhaps it is still too early to talk about this. But if you ask me whether Poland should participate in nuclear sharing, I would certainly say yes.
Notably, France is considering deploying its nuclear weapons on the territory of its allies to replace the United States nuclear arsenal in Europe. According to French President Macron, he is ready to deepen cooperation with European partners on the issue of nuclear deterrence. Those
who wish to deepen dialogue with us will, if necessary, be able to participate in deterrence force exercises. These exchanges will contribute to the development of a genuine strategic culture among Europeans. France's nuclear doctrine remains unchanged.
It seems that Poland is preparing as much as possible for a confrontation with the Russian Federation, purchasing weapons and learning how to shoot down drones. Notably, the president of Ukraine emphasized that Poland will not be able to protect its people if it faces a massive attack. Volodymyr Zelensky stated that while Ukraine shoots down 700 out of 800 Russian aerial targets, Poland shot down only 4 out of 19 Russian UAVs during the latest attack.
I'm not criticizing the Poles, our friends. They are not at war, so they are not prepared for this. But compare, we destroyed 700 out of 810, and they had 19 drones and destroyed 4. They didn't have missiles, ballistic weapons, and so on. And of course, they won't be able to protect people from a massive attack. We can teach, we can train. They are our partners as well. They helped at the beginning of the war, took in refugees, so we are very grateful. That is why we are very grateful.
Let me remind you that the alliance scrambled fighter jets on the night of September 10th when Russian Shaheds violated Polish airspace. In the country, it is openly said that this is not an accident, but part of systematic actions by the Russian army. The Kremlin is testing the defense of Poland and all of NATO, using drones as an element of hybrid warfare. More details about the aggressor country's attack on Poland were provided in the report.
Our airspace has been repeatedly violated by drone-type objects. The operation to detect and neutralize targets is ongoing.
Social media is filled with videos, and local residents report drones flying over Warsaw and Krakow. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk stated that the military used weapons against enemy targets.
The operation related to multiple violations of Polish airspace is ongoing. The military used weapons against the objects. I am in constant contact with the President and the Minister of Defense.
At the same time, the country's Minister of Defense emphasized that during the repulsion of the attack, they maintained communication with NATO. It was ultimately revealed that the destruction of the UAVs was assisted by Alliance and Dutch aviation.
As a result of today's attack by the Russian Federation on Ukrainian territory, there was an unprecedented violation of Polish airspace by drone-type objects. This is an act of aggression that created a real threat to the safety of our citizens.
Breaking news. In the Lublin Voivodeship, the first drone was found after the Russian drone attacks.
At 5:40 a.m. in the city of Chosnovka, the police confirmed the discovery of a damaged drone. We have informed the relevant authorities. The investigation is ongoing.
It was also reported that as a result of the attack, a residential building in a city near Lublin was damaged.
A local government official confirmed that no one was injured in the incident, but there was material damage. District representatives are at the scene to assess the damage.
And in addition, a real commotion. The shutdown of 4 airports at once. The Chopin International Airport in Warsaw, as well as Warsaw-Modlin Rzeszów-Jasionka, the airport closest to the border with Ukraine, and the airport in Lublin. Moreover, due to the drone attack, the authorities convened an emergency government meeting, and the country has already announced an accelerated call-up of reservists to the territorial defense forces.
Soldiers can now receive a summons for immediate appearance. within 6 hours in such voivodeships as Podlasky, Mazowiecki, Lublin, and Subcarpathian. Within 12 hours in voivodeships such as Pomeranian, Warmian, Mazurian, Kujawian, Pomeranian, Łódź, Świętokrzyskie, and Lesser Poland.
Official statements also started pouring in. U.S. Secretary of State Mark Rubio reported that he had received information about Russian drones on Polish territory. Republican Congressman Joe Wilson directly called the Shahed drone attack an act of war. At the same time, the head of America, Donald Trump, simply refused to comment on the situation. Europe also took drastic measures. Poland will receive tens of billions of euros for defense.
Poland will receive 43.7 billion euros as part of a European Union program to strengthen its defense capabilities. The Deputy Prime Minister announced this on Tuesday as Warsaw is building up its armed forces due to what it sees as a growing threat from Russia.
Ukraine has not stood aside either. President Volodymyr Zelensky called on the world not to ignore Russia's provocations.
Another step toward escalation. Russian-Iranian Shaheds operated in Polish airspace, in NATO airspace. Not just one Shahed, which could be called an accident, but at least 8 attack drones that were aimed toward Poland. An extremely dangerous precedent for Europe.
Tensions are rising, and all this is happening against the backdrop of threats from Belarusian territory. Now the border is locked down. The day before, Megatech Donald Tusk announced that this week Poland is closing its border with Belarus ahead of the upcoming Zapad 2025 exercises.
According to
Tusk, all border crossings with Belarus will be closed, including railway crossings. The Prime Minister emphasized that the military exercises organized in Moscow and Minsk are aimed at a sensitive NATO security zone.
So Ukraine is ready to share its experience and skills with Poland when it comes to shooting down Russian UAVs. During the EU25 conference, the deputy head of the APP, Polis, stated that Ukraine is ready to begin training at any moment as soon as the Polish side is ready.
We are ready to help, to share our experience, our skills, to advise them on how to protect their skies. A strong partner in...
The head of communications for the Air Force Command, Yuri Inat, suggested that the training could take place, for example, in Lviv or Krakow.
Partners have a unique opportunity to see, understand, and participate in these exercises. Of course, there were also mistakes in some of the work. It's impossible to account for everything when the enemy attacks with the latest technology. We need to try to implement innovative solutions.
The Polish Ministry of Defense stated that cooperation with the Ukrainian side regarding countering drones will take place on Polish territory. This was stated in a comment by the ministry on the social network X.
In response to questions about the location of the planned drone exercises and cooperation between experts from Poland and Ukraine, we inform you that specialists from both countries are currently negotiating deeper cooperation in the field of drone and anti-drone systems. It is expected that all these activities will take place on Polish territory.
As we can see, the Russian Federation continues to flex its muscles in front of Europe, and after launching drones over Polish territory, it is now threatening with its Iskander ballistic missiles. Photos and videos of 2 Iskander M launchers on a highway in the Kaliningrad region have appeared online. Each launcher is equipped with 1 ballistic missile. Apparently, the deployment of the launchers took place as part of the Zapad 2025 exercises, but regardless of the official reasons for deploying the Iskander systems, in reality, it can be said that the Russian Federation has targeted its tactical missile systems at Poland. In fact, a number of countries in Europe are within the strike range of this system. Taking into account the maximum possible range of the ballistic missile at 500 kilometers, we get the following picture regarding potential targets in Europe that the Russian Federation can reach.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
This is in fact most of the territory of the Baltic states, Lithuania, including Vilnius, Latvia, including Riga, and about a third of Estonia, almost all of Poland, including Warsaw, as well as a small part of Germany and Denmark, as well as parts of Sweden. Moreover, the capitals of Sweden and Germany, Stockholm and Berlin, are less than 100 kilometers from the range of the ballistic missiles. In turn, the alliance is preparing to retaliate for Russia's childish actions, although for now they are not revealing how. Meanwhile, Putin's army in the Barents Sea is practicing strikes with Panata and preparing for war with Finland. What will come of this saber rattling? Find out next.
The attack of Russian drones on Poland and the military exercise Zapad 2025 in Belarus are a rehearsal for an assault on NATO's eastern flank.
During the exercises in Belarus, the Russian Federation is practicing the capture of the Suwalki Corridor, according to Bild.
Russia isn't even hiding its goals and objectives. In Kaliningrad, Russia is demonstratively deploying Iskander missiles in broad daylight and along busy roads, while the aggressor country's Ministry of Defense reports daily on successful training combat, missile and bomb strikes using aviation and the Navy against the territory of the North Atlantic Alliance.
MiG-31 aircraft crews equipped with the Kinjal aviation complex conducted a flight over the neutral waters of the Barents Sea as part of the Joint Strategic Exercise West 2025. During the training combat mission, the crews practiced delivering a simulated airstrike on the enemy's critically important targets.
In response, NATO is strengthening its military capabilities in countries neighboring Russia. According to Polish media reports, the mission Eastern Sentinel, announced the day before by Mark Rutte, has already begun.
The Polish General Staff has published footage of a French A-400 transport aircraft landing in Minsk Mazowiecki. It delivered armaments for Rafale fighter jets, which, as it turns out, are already in Poland. As part of the mission,
countries of Western and Northern Europe are strengthening the military and technical capabilities of those nations most vulnerable to the Russian threat.
On the territory of both Poland and the Baltic states, there is a redeployment of units, both of the armed forces and accordingly of NATO member countries. First and foremost, this concerns strengthening the security of land borders to prevent possible provocations.
The protection of the eastern skies is also being reinforced. France, Britain and Germany are deploying Rafale and Eurofighter jets, as well as additional air defense systems, to the territories of bordering countries. Any
inaction, of course, is a clear and undeniable demonstration of profound weakness, which actively encourages the aggressive Russian Federation and various other nations in the future to brazenly violate the established borders and the crucial international architecture that was meticulously established in Yalta and Potsdam, an architecture which the United States of America is now diligently and steadfastly trying to maintain and uphold.
Now the question is whether the US will support Europe. After Donald Trump's vague response, European politicians began to doubt Washington's willingness to actually defend NATO's borders. What is
your reaction to the drone incursion into Poland? It could have been a mistake. It might have been a mistake. But regardless of that, I'm not happy about anything related to this situation. But I hope it will end in...
The Kremlin is watching the response of Europe and the US. Weakness and ignoring the problem will serve as an invitation for Putin to move from rehearsals to an actual attack.
The Suwalki Corridor is NATO's most vulnerable spot, and in the near future, Putin may try to launch an incursion into this Achilles heel. We
are observing an increased Russian military presence in Kaliningrad and Belarus. We are witnessing sudden military exercises and unusual troop movements. We are currently facing a complex hybrid war characterized by GPS jamming, deliberate sabotage of underwater vessels, and the presence of little green men stirring up significant unrest among Russian-speaking minorities.
We're talking about the so-called Suwalki Corridor, which is about 100 kilometers long and connects Poland with the Baltic states. Military analysts often describe this area as the most dangerous zone for NATO. If Russia and Belarus seize this corridor, they will cut off Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia from their European NATO allies.
Anything that resembles a large-scale military buildup on the border with Ukraine, similar to what happened right before the 2022 war, should be interpreted as a serious warning sign. The movement of vehicle fuel and other military assets can serve as an indication of an impending invasion.
The Zapad 2025 military exercises, which will be jointly conducted by Russia and Belarus from September 12th to 16th, will partly take place near the borders with Poland and Lithuania.
We must take exercises near the borders of NATO and the EU very seriously. Both neighboring countries and NATO itself treat them with the utmost seriousness. Lithuania and our allies are prepared, united, and closely monitoring developments, ready to respond if necessary.
Military experts urge close monitoring of these exercises, while NATO countries bordering Russia are conducting their own military drills during the same period. 10 Northern European NATO countries are participating in the Tarasis 25 exercises, while Lithuania is conducting its own national defense drills, Thunderstrike. Poland is holding its own Iron Defender 25 exercises, joined by 30,000 military personnel.
We need to set challenging tasks for our troops and make them think outside the box. It's not just about getting to the training site and setting up camp. We need real challenges. Russia knows that if we are fully armed and ready for battle, they will definitely lose. So we won't be given the easiest conditions. We'll have to operate under pressure.
The Suwalki Corridor is the only land route for NATO forces to Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. It is considered the Achilles heel of the alliance due to its limited military capability compared to other NATO members. The Kaliningrad region and the Suwalki Corridor are seen as potentially dangerous zones, since Russia could try to block the Baltic states through them, by sea on one side and by land on the other. It is possible that Moscow will use the Zapad 2025 exercise to test NATO's response to provocations. Moscow is ramping up the mobilization of the Russian population and economy. This confirms that the aggressor country is preparing for a possible war with NATO, and the Suwalki Corridor is the most likely place for the confrontation to begin.
With new threats and accusations, the Russian dictator is preparing for yet another war.
Russia has always achieved results and has always emerged victorious from even the most difficult trials.
Well, that's not exactly always the case. Let's not bring up the achievements of the great Russian army right now. In the past few days, Putin's lackeys have been making statements about a possible war. The former ALCO president Dmitry Medvedev has decided that Finland is preparing to attack Russia.
After joining NATO, under the guise of defensive measures, Helsinki is pursuing a confrontational course, preparing for war with Russia. It seems they're preparing a staging ground for an attack on us.
Moreover, according to him, Russia supposedly legally deserves reparations from Finland for World War II. Supposedly, they paid too little at the time, thanks to the goodwill of the Russians.
More delusions from the Kremlin drunkard Medvedev, who likes to reinterpret history just as Russia in general likes to rewrite it. If we talk specifically about any reparations, there were numerous consultations between Soviet Russia and Finland after World War II, during which the very term Finlandization emerged. In this arrangement, the Soviet Union did not demand any territorial concessions or reparations from Finland, and in return received a promise that Finland would not join NATO. But obviously the situation has changed over time. Next.
After the alcoholic Medvedev, who made aggressive statements, the chairman of the State Duma Defense Committee, Andrei Kartapolov, also spoke out. According to him, Helsinki's actions are allegedly extremely irresponsible, and the country's leadership is turning Finland into a hotbed of fascism.
And essentially, it is becoming, even more rapidly and at a quicker pace than Ukraine, a truly real and significant stronghold of fascism. I am very deeply and genuinely sorry that these individuals, these resilient people who have already been through so much unimaginable hardship and profound adversity, and who absolutely do not deserve the truly unfortunate fate and the incredibly difficult situation they are currently enduring.
Kartapolov also stated, or rather threatened, that Russia is ready to defend itself at any moment, since they have everything they need. Medvedev had previously said the same thing.
We absolutely cannot ignore the significant fact that Finland is now a full member of the North Atlantic Alliance. This crucial development predetermines substantial and necessary changes in our military approaches to border arrangements and to effectively countering any possible unfriendly acts or potential aggressions.
If we recall the well-known phrase often attributed to Churchill that the fascists of the future will call themselves anti-fascists, then Russians are vividly emphasizing the current ideology of their state by running around accusing everyone left and right of allegedly supporting Nazi or fascist ideas. Of course, there are no concrete facts behind these accusations, but this kind of hybrid psychological aggression against Finland, against Poland, against the Baltic countries is yet another confirmation of the long-term plans of the Russian Federation. They have absolutely no intention of stopping at Ukraine. And much of Vladimir Putin's overarching plan is clearly aimed at fully restoring the former Soviet Union's significant influence over both Eastern and Northeastern Europe.
These statements show that Moscow is sharply escalating its aggressive rhetoric against Finland, the new NATO country, and all accusations directed at it are a continuation of the Kremlin's well-known tactics, attributing aggressive intentions to neighboring countries, thereby justifying their own militarization.
If the Finns do not respond proactively and decisively to various kinds of provocations, if the Finns let the Russians get away with both hybrid attacks and information psychological ones, or possibly if in the future Finland faces cases strikingly similar to what we are seeing today with Poland, namely the incursion of a very large number of drones which can only be described as a deliberate and calculated plan, then the Russians will also try physical, concrete operations on the ground in order to seize Finnish territory and establish their control.
Russia has long been building up its strength along the Finnish border, constructing new tents and shelters for fighter jets from storage. In this way, the Kremlin is gradually preparing the ground for putting pressure on Finland. And
what do you think? Could a direct confrontation between NATO and the Russian Federation really begin? We look forward to your comments. Stay tuned for more key updates. Hit the like button below the video. Wishing you peaceful skies above.